Hi, I'm Carol Fitzgerald from readinggroupguides.com, a website from the Book Report Network, and I'm really happy to welcome you to our 11th annual book group speed dating event. I can't believe it's our 11th annual. We remember doing this in the halls of the Davits Center during Book Expo, and we've just reinvented this and brought it all online. And this is the fifth time we're doing it like that, and we're just so excited to have you with us today. Now, many of you have been with us before, but we know that some of you might be new to the show. So we want to explain to what you're going to see. First of all, we'll be hearing from 14 small, medium, and large-sized publishers. And they've got terrific books to share with you today, including a cookbook that you might want to bake something for your book club with. So we've got great ideas for you to be taking away for great discussions and for you to just be able to enjoy and do some thinking about as well. One presentation is just really better than the next. I've had the ability to watch them all, and they're all terrific. We've got some new presenters this time, and I love to see their enthusiasm for their books as well. So now I hope you just sit back, enjoy the show, and I'll hop on at the end just to give a few wrap-up details. Enjoy, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie Pierce, and I'm the Senior Director of Retail Marketing and Creative Services at Sourcebooks. I have to start this off by saying thank you, Carol and Austin. Thanks to you, we're all going to find out about these amazing books that we're going to be reading in the spring and the summer and the fall, and probably for years to come, because our TBRs are going to be so long. So thank you for bringing us all together. And now I'm going to start off with our books. Our first is from Julie Clark, who is the New York Times bestselling author of The Last Flight. I absolutely expect The Lies I Tell to also debut on the New York Times bestseller list. It's exceptional. This book follows two women. The first is Meg Williams, who, when we start the story, is basically destitute. Her mother was swindled out of their family home by a horrible man and then died of cancer and left Meg completely alone. When Meg's on the streets, she discovers a very special gift. She's great at conning. It starts off with, getting guys to take her out so she can get a hot meal, but soon escalates to going after bad men, manipulating them, taking them for everything they're worth, and then cutting and running. Meg's been now doing this for 10 years, and she's come home to Los Angeles for the ultimate con, taking down the guy that destroyed her mother. But what Meg doesn't know is that a young woman named Kat, an investigative journalist, has been watching her for years, following her, trying to expose her. Years ago, one of Meg's cons really hurt Kat in a way that Meg is completely clueless to. And as Kat gets drawn deeper into the mystery of who Meg is, the question of who is hunting who and why becomes very difficult to answer. The Lies I Tell comes out in June. Next, I'm going to move into true crime with Helltown by Casey Sherman, who's the mega best-selling author of The Finest Hours, Patriots Day, and The Last Days of John Lennon. This book combines so many of my favorite things: true crime, exceptional writing that feels like fiction, and then books about books. So in this story, we learn about Tony Costa, who is a handsome, charismatic young man who also was a serial killer. He killed and mutilated women in the 1960s off of Cape Cod. And we get to learn about this. We get to follow the investigator who's trying to track him down. And then we also get this really interesting side story about Kurt Vonnegut, who at the time is a young, aspiring writer and door-to-door salesman who is deeply jealous of his contemporary Norman Mailer, who is very well reviewed. When the serial killer story goes national in the 1960s, these two writers start vying, incredibly competitive, so fast-paced, both of these two men trying to uncover the mystery and report on it so that one of them can be viewed as a literary icon. Helltown has also been seen by some pretty big names, including Iron Man himself, Robert Downey Jr., who is developing it as a limited series. So you're going to be hearing about this for a while. So get in on this early. Read Helltown in July when it comes out. Next is Widowland, which is just this really great gem on our list. In Widowland, we are introduced to an alternate 1953 Great Britain, King Edward VIII and his American wife, Wallis, for all of my Crown fans out there. They're in charge, and they have made an agreement with the Nazis. They're not under the same control that mainland Europe is, but they really just have enough freedom so that the people aren't openly rebelling. In this world, women are put into a caste system, which basically determines everything in their lives, from what kind of jobs they can have, to how many clothes they're allowed to have, to even what kinds of foods and how many calories they're allowed to eat. Our main character, Rose, is a Gelly, which is the highest form of womanhood at this stage, and she works for the Ministry of Culture and carefully edits great works of literature so that they correspond with Nazi ideology. So for example, Lizzie Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, way too headstrong. She's got to be whittled down quite a bit. But as Rose does this, it really starts to hurt. She loves these books. She loves these stories. She doesn't want to change them. And that's the time when something insane happens. All across England, graffiti starts appearing on buildings, subversive quotes from dangerous books from infamous women. And the Nazis, who still trust Rose completely, send her into the Widowlands, which is where the lowest caste of women live, the widows, the elderly widows. They believe these women are responsible for this, and they trust Rose to go in and find the culprits. But the problem is, they haven't counted on the powerful effect that literature has on Rose, and Rose herself doesn't know how far she might go to protect it. Widowland comes out in August. Next is The Ways We Hide by Christina McMorris, the author of Sold on a Monday. To start off, did you know that in World War II, the British would send British POWs Monopoly boards, and it passed Nazi inspection? They seemed inconspicuous, but in these boards would be maps and compasses and all of these different things that would help the soldiers escape and helped turn the tide of the war. I didn't know about this, but Christina Morris certainly did. So she wove this into this incredible story that encompasses all of these fascinating facts. In The Ways We Hide, we get to meet Fenna Voss, who is a woman who has suffered an incredible tragedy in her youth, which now leads her to constantly look for escape routes, no matter what the situation she's in. And she's so exceptional at this that the British intelligence eventually find her and recruit her to work for them with an unruly set of inventors to try to create ways to help people escape. But the more she starts to do this, the more she starts to worry and think about things that happened to her in her past. This is just a really great World War II fiction story, and it comes out in September. Next is Cradles of the Reich by Jennifer Coburn. This was inspired by the Nazi Lebensborn program, which was essentially a Nazi breeding program. Women who were deemed racially valuable were told that one of the best ways to serve their country would be to give birth to superior children and then to give them to wealthier families. Women were rewarded with status and resources, and it was also a way for young women who were maybe unwed and found themselves pregnant. It was a way for them to save their reputation. So in this story, we meet three women who are at a Lebensborn facility. The first is a secret resistance fighter who is terrified that when her baby is born, the people will discover that the father is Jewish. Then we meet the mistress of a high-ranking Nazi official who is very married. So he sent her to this program to give birth to their child quietly to keep a scandal from happening. And then we also meet a nurse who is really starting to struggle with all of the policies at this facility. She really cares about her wards and she doesn't want anything to happen to them, and she's told that's not how she's supposed to be thinking about things. This book is perfect for fans of Martha Hall Kelly, who has already read and reviewed Cradles of the Reich and said that she loved it. It's fascinating, incredibly well researched. Don't miss this wonderful historical fiction debut. And Kate Quinn, another queen of World War II fiction, also loves the book and says it's adept, unforgettable, and brilliantly unsettling. This book comes out in October. And then last but not least is one of, again, another personal favorite, little gem of mine. This is called The Storyteller's Death by Anna de Villacardinal. If you are someone who loves an amazing first sentence to a novel, then please go read this immediately. I'm just going to tell you the first sentence. There was always some old woman dying in the back room when I was a child. Are you intrigued yet? I know I was, which is why I read this book in one night. The Storyteller's Death follows Isla, a Puerto Rican teenager who finds herself gifted or cursed with a strange ability. When someone in her family dies, they transport her into a vision from their past, and those visions play on a loop until she can stop them. After Isla witnesses a violent murder through one such vision, she realizes that the visions can be dangerous and that the story she's always been told about her family may not be true. Now she needs to solve the mystery of that killing before she can truly understand her gift or truly know her family. This book comes out in October and is also really perfect if you want to celebrate Latinx Heritage Month. And those are my books. Thank you so much for listening. I know I am a little out of time, so thank you. Enjoy the rest of the event and write me if you ever want to talk about our books. Thanks so much. Bye.
Hi everyone. My name is Randy Chan. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager for HTP Books. I'm thrilled to be here. HTP stands for Harlequin Trade Publishing, and we've been on a remarkable run lately, thanks to your support. We've published the Indie Next picks, such as Sister Stardust by Jane Green, Don't Cry For Me by Daniel Black, and of course the monster success story of The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And here are my picks for the rest of the season, starting with Ben and Beatrice by Catalina Gamarra. So Beatrice Herrera is a Latin woman with quick wit and intellect, and Ben comes from one of the wealthiest families in the country. And even though Ben and Beatrice don't seem to be a match, they soon realize that love is the great unifier. This is a retelling of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, but it features Latin and queer characters. It's a page-turner, it's fun to read, this will have YA crossover appeal, and the great thing is that the author, Catalina Gamarra, was the bookseller herself. She lives in Massachusetts and once worked at Concord Bookshop. As a nod to her bookselling roots, she has set an entire scene of the novel set inside of a bookstore, and just you wait until you hear what she's cooking up for book 2. We love a modern retelling that brings a fresh spin on things, and Ben and Beatrice is the real deal. We have high hopes for Indie Next picks. The deadline is June the 8th, so please request a galley. And the next book is The Workwife by Alison B. Hart. When I think about this book, I think of the best novels of Meg Wolitzer. I think about the movie The Wife, which starred Glenn Close, and how tightly wound that plot was. Things felt like a powder keg, and you just knew that by the end, Glenn Close's character would combust. And that is the same tone and feel as The Workwife, which is a debut novel by Alison B. Hart. It's set during the course of one single day, and it follows 3 characters who are preparing for a big Hollywood party that evening to be held at the house of a billionaire film mogul. We follow the mogul's personal assistant, his chief of staff, and a former business partner. And quickly we realize that by the end of the evening, their shared experiences will collide and nothing will ever be the same again. But not in a bad way. This is about complicity, it's about privilege, it's about righting wrongs. And the writing grabs you, you feel coiled while reading this, you feel invested, it's so terrific. We already have blurbs in from Julia Phillips and Emma Straub. And the Indie Next deadline for this title is also June the 8th. The next book is For Butter or Worse by Erin LaRosa. And the best way to describe this novel is The Hating Game meets The Great British Bake Off. This is rom-com of the finest order. It's about a chef named Nina Lyon who is co-hosting a reality TV series called The Next Cooking Champ. But there's just one problem. Her co-host is a smarmy jerk. But this is a rom-com, so what starts off as adversarial quickly leads to what might be described as love. Who knows? There's a lot of hijinks along the way. And what I love seeing every month is just how many rom-coms, and specifically rom-coms written by diverse voices, get so much attention in the indie bookstore space. This is clearly a category that shows no signs of trending down. It's delivering in spades to all the romance readers out there who want to read about joy, about positivity, about love. So definitely keep For Butter or Worse on your radar. The next book is called The Witches of Moonshine Manor by Bianca Murray. And the writer Bianca published 2 novels with Penguin Random House. One was Hum If You Don't Know the Words, and If You Want to Make God Laugh. And they were moving works of literary fiction. But Bianca has now moved to our Mira imprint, and to say the least, she has made one giant editorial pivot into this wonderful world of witches. The Witches of Moonshine Manor is about 5 octogenarian witches who gather together to save their beloved home, Moonshine Manor. And as the deadline to save the manor approaches, fractures among the sisterhood of witches are revealed and long-held secrets are exposed. It feels like Bianca is having so much fun with this book, and the result is something that lifts off the page. It's funny, it's feminist. Our tagline for the novel is, "Why were we taught to fear witches and not the men who burn them?" And we already have blurbs in from Karma Brown, Marissa Stapley, who wrote Lucky, the recent Reese Witherspoon pick, and honestly, I can't imagine a more fun read. And the next book is The Two Lives of Sarah by Catherine Adele West, and it's a special novel to us because it won the HarperCollins lead read of the season, which is like our version of America's Got Talent, only with books and authors. So because it's a lead read, all HarperCollins sales reps will push this book in the biggest possible way. So why all the hype? The Two Lives of Sarah is about a young mother living at a boarding house in 1960s Memphis, Tennessee. Sarah is pregnant and she is outrunning her past. And in Memphis, she starts over, while all around her, the world is lit up. Martin Luther King Jr. is leading the fight for equal rights, and Sarah is really drawn to the energy and the discussions and the hope and the feeling of revitalization of that time. This is the story of a resilient woman. It is filled with Black music and cultural references that transport you back to Memphis in the 1960s. There is love, there are unforgettable characters such as Mama Sugar, the matriarch of the boarding house where Sarah lives. And when you read this, it feels like you're reading an instant classic. We have a goal, you heard it here first, to make this a #1 Indie Next pick. And so you're going to hear a lot more about this. Please give it a read, and I look forward to talking to you more about this. And finally, we have the Book Haters Book Club by Gretchen Anthony. And the Book Haters Book Club refers to a newsletter started by a bookseller that features reading recommendations for non-readers. When that bookseller passes away, his business partners band together to save his bookstore. The way the community comes together is a feel-good story. The editor compares it to the feeling of watching Schitt's Creek or Ted Lasso. And you should know that Gretchen, the author, reached out to US booksellers she knew to get actual book recommendations, which she ended up featuring in the book. So if you go onto Edelweiss, we've posted the list of booksellers there. So needless to say, this book is for us. It's for everyone who sells books day in and out. It's a perfect book lover's book. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Matthew Sharapa. I am a member of the marketing team for the Knopf Doubleday Publishing Group, and I am so excited today to share with you some fabulous forthcoming releases, all of which are available for request and review on NetGalley. First up is The Lifestyle by Taylor Hahn, which is a hilarious and heartwarming new novel about the complexities of the heart, marriage, and swinging. Georgina Wogman is #living her best life until she catches her husband cheating. In an attempt to save her marriage, she dives headfirst into the New York City swinging scene, dragging her friends and their respective partners along with her. All is going according to plan until she spots her college ex at the first party she attends, and suddenly things start to feel a little more complicated. My personal favorite highlight in this book is a scene where Georgina roleplays her favorite Matthew McConaughey fantasy, set to the soundtrack of Nasty by Janet Jackson. But also this book has incredible depth, watching Georgina as a character come to terms with her personal desires, reconciling with her relationships and marriage. This book is a playful homage to Jane Austen's Emma Woodhouse, and perfect for fans of Sex and the City or Sophie Kinsella. Up next, Pig Years is Ellen Gatos' rich and compassionate debut memoir. It chronicles her life as a farmhand working in upstate New York and Vermont. She writes about livestock, full moons, love, motherhood, food, speed races, and more. While small farms struggle in the face of industrial operations, low wages, and loneliness, Gatos takes us into a violent yet gorgeous world where pigs become the star-bright symbols of hope. This is a book where beauty surfaces in the furrows, the sow, and the slaughter. Gatos' lush prose will bury itself like dirt underneath your fingernails. And it will also make you think about the way that the earth sustains us in a new way. Up next is a novel of mothers and daughters, culture and class, sex and love, and the extraordinary resilience of female friendship. Dele Weds Destiny by Tomi Obaro tells the story of three friends who reunite after 30 years of separation in Lagos, Nigeria, because one of their daughters is getting married. And I think we all know few things stir up emotions and feelings like a wedding. You are absolutely going to fall in love with this cast of characters as they navigate the echoes of their past and their tumultuous present. Dele Weds Destiny has already received a salvo of early praise from favorite authors Tayari Jones, Rahman Alam, Saeed Jones, Raven Leilani, Jamie Attenberg, and Hanif Abdurraqib, who in particular describes this book as a generous and patient consideration of life. Up next is a novel that's going to make you want to pour yourself a glass of wine, curl up in your favorite chair, and sit for hours devouring the romantic relationships of a messy jazz man and the women he loves. Sweet, Soft, Plenty Rhythm by Laura Worrell tells the story of trumpet performer Circus Palmer finding out that his sometimes lover, Maggie, is pregnant with his child. Being the kind of man that he is, he flees, and this sets off a chain of events that affects the many women from his past to his present, including his teenage daughter, Coco. Coco is awakening in her own sexuality, while her mother is struggling to overcome the long-failed marriage and rejection by Circus. But Laura Worrell tells her story through a diverse cast of women as their lives begin to interconnect and unfold. It is a stunning look at passion, at risk, at mothers, daughters, wives, and singlehood, and the many different temptations of love that attract and affect us all. This book is sexy, emotional, beautifully written, and you will be rooting for this entire cast of women, although I bet you will have a favorite by the end. I know I do. And you may even find yourself be feeling a little bit for Circus, despite his many, many flaws. Up next is an enchanting novel that takes us from the gargantuan cavity of a beached whale to undercover operations during World War II. The Whalebone Theatre by Joanna Quinn is an incredible story, opening on a blustery night in 1928 when a whale washes ashore on the English Channel. By law, the whale belongs to the king. However, 12-year-old Christabel Seagrave has different plans. She, along with a motley crew of characters, build a theater within the beast's skeletal ribcage. Within this titular whalebone theater, Christabel can allow her imagination to run wild. She can escape. But this is only the start of this sweeping story. Author of Ghost Walk, Rebecca Stott, says that this book is deftly managed and heartbreaking as a Dickens novel. And I couldn't agree more. Lastly, new from the author of best-selling hit memoir Inheritance, and host of the over 20 million times downloaded podcast Family Secrets, we have Signal Fires by Dani Shapiro, and this is Dani's first work of fiction in 15 years. Considering similar themes as can be found in her memoir, Signal Fires follows two families bound together across generations by unspeakable tragedy. One summer night in 1985, the lives of three teenagers are shattered by a horrific car crash. The result is the death of a young woman near a sprawling oak tree that marks the perimeter of 18 Division Street. For the Wilf family, it will become the deepest kind of family secret. One so dangerous it can never be spoken. This is a heavy but completely engrossing novel of haunting complexity. And if you are anything like me, it will be impossible to put down from its very first pages. So, those are some wonderful forthcoming books from KDPG. I hope you take the opportunity to look at them over on NetGalley. Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!
Hi, I'm Colleen Nuccio, the Senior Marketing Manager for Book Club Favorites at Simon & Schuster. I'm thrilled to be here to present some amazing new titles that are perfect for your book club. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit us at simonschuster.com/bookclub, join our Facebook group, or follow us on Instagram. Fellowship Point by Alice Elliott Dark is a masterful story of a lifelong friendship between two very different women, with shared histories and buried secrets tested in the twilight of their lives set across the arc of the 20th century. Fellowship Point reads like a classic 19th century novel in its beautifully woven, multi-layered narrative. but it's entirely contemporary in the themes it explores. A deep and empathetic interest in women's lives, the class differences that divided us, the struggle to protect the natural world, and above all, a reckoning with intimacy, history, and posterity. You'll be rooting for the two women through all the ups and downs. Dorothy Moy breaks her own heart for a living. That's how she describes channeling her dissociative episodes and mental health struggles into her art. But when her daughter exhibits similar behavior and begins remembering things from the lives of their ancestors, Dorothy believes the past has truly come to haunt her. Fearing for her daughter, Dorothy seeks radical help through an experimental treatment. The Many Daughters of Afong Moy by New York Times bestselling author Jamie Ford is a powerful exploration of the love that binds one family across the generations. In The Fortunes of Jaded Women, you'll be introduced to the Duong sisters, who everyone knows are cursed. It started with their ancestor, who dared to leave her marriage for true love. So a fearsome Vietnamese witch cursed her and her descendants so that they would never find love or happiness, and the Duong women would give birth to daughters, never sons. Her current descendant, Mai, knows this curse well. She's divorced, and after an explosive disagreement a decade ago, she's estranged from her younger sisters. Though Mai's 3 adult daughters are successful in their careers, the same can't be said for their love lives. Mai is convinced they might drive her to an early grave. Desperate for guidance, she consults her trusted psychic in Hawaii, who delivers an unexpected prediction. This year, her family will witness a marriage, a funeral, and the birth of a son. This prophecy will reunite estranged mothers, daughters, aunts, and cousins for better or for worse. The Fortunes of Jaded Women is about mourning, meddling, celebrating, and healing together as a family. It shows how Vietnamese women emerge victorious even if the world is against them. Based on a real-life event, The Night Ship is an epic historical novel from the award-winning author of Things in Jars that illuminates the lives of 2 characters, a girl shipwrecked on an island off Western Australia, and 300 years later, a boy finding a home with his grandfather on the same island. With her trademark, thrilling, mysterious storytelling, Jess Kidd weaves an unputdownable and charming tale of friendship and sacrifice, brutality and forgiveness. Shantanu Das is living in the shadows of his past. In his 50s, he finds himself isolated from his traditional Bengali community after a devastating divorce from his wife. He hasn't spoken to his eldest daughter in months, and most painfully, he lives each day with the regret that he didn't accept his teenage daughter, Kia, after she came out as gay. As the anniversary of Kia's death approaches, Shantanu wakes up one morning utterly alone in his suburban New Jersey home and realizes it's finally time to move on. This is when he discovers a tucked-away box in the attic that could change everything. He calls his eldest daughter and pleads with her to come home. She does so out of pity, not realizing that her life is about to shift. A story of redemption and righting the wrongs of the past, Kia Das's second act is a warmly drawn homage to family, creativity, and second chances. The author of Queenie, Candace Carty-Williams, returns with People Person, a witty and insightful novel about the power of family even when they seem like strangers. If you could choose your family, you wouldn't choose the Penningtons. Dimple Pennington knows her half-siblings, but she doesn't really know them. 5 people who don't have anything in common except for faint memories of being driven around Brixton with their dad's gold Jeep and some pretty complex abandonment issues. Dimple has bigger things to think about. She's 30 and her life really isn't going anywhere. An aspiring lifestyle influencer with a terrible and wayward boyfriend, Dimple's life has shrunk to the size of a phone screen. And despite a small but loyal following, she's never felt more alone in her life. That is, until a dramatic event brings her half-siblings crashing back into her life. And when they're all forced to reconnect with their absent father they never really knew, things get even more complicated.
Hello, I'm Justina Batchelor. I'm a publicity manager at Grove Atlantic, and I'm going to be telling you about some of our books, as well as Caitlin Estrella, who's a publicist at Grove Atlantic. I just want to mention first a few titles of ours, just to mention quickly. One is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. This is Douglas's second novel. His first debut novel was Shuggie Bain, which was a Booker Prize winner and received all kinds of accolades. And Young Mungo is also set in working class Glasgow, and it's a queer love story between two young men, one of whom is Protestant and one who is Catholic. And it's just out now, and it's receiving all kinds of wonderful praise, so we're very excited about that. I also want to mention The Wrong End of the Telescope by Robbie Alameddine, which just won the PEN/Faulkner Award. It's a wonderful novel about a trans woman and her experience among Syrian refugees on the island of Lesbos. And I also want to mention Lily King, 5 Tuesdays in Winter. You might be familiar with Lily from her best-selling novels Euphoria and Writers for Lovers. But this is Lily's short story collection, 5 Tuesdays in Winter, which we published in November to all kinds of excitement and praise. Like all of Lily's books, these stories deal in one way or another with her theme of love. So that's definitely one to be sure and check out. Now I'm excited to tell you about also a poet, Frank O'Hara, My Father and Me, by Ada Calhoun. This is a wonderful book that we are so excited about. Ada was in her parents' basement. They live in the East Village in New York City. And while she was down in the basement, she found these tapes, which were recordings of interviews that her father had done with the poet Frank O'Hara. Ada's father is Peter Sheldall, the celebrated art critic, and he had done these interviews in the hopes of writing a biography of Frank O'Hara, but that never came to fruition. And so Ada decides that she's going to take this project on herself, and she thinks that she'll be able to bring it to completion because she's in so many ways her father's polar opposite. She's very dependable and responsible, whereas her father is much more mercurial. But it doesn't quite turn out the way that Ada thinks that it will. But this book is just absolutely fascinating. It really, it talks about Frank O'Hara and the New York School poets and that wonderful period of New York City history. But it also really examines Ada's difficult relationship with her father, which she writes about very candidly. And really, ultimately, this book is a memoir. It becomes Ada's story, and it's all about what happens to her through this experience and through dealing with the adversity of not being able to complete the project in the way that she thought that she would. We're so excited about it. We have 4 starred pre-pub reviews, and I hope that you'll be sure and check out Also a Poet when it publishes June 15th. Now, I'd also like to tell you about Cat Brushing by Jane Campbell. Jane is in her 80th year, and this is her debut story collection. So we're very excited about that. And in this collection, all of the characters are older women. And the stories really deal with what Jane has called the othering of older women in our society, how they're sort of cast aside so often and thought to no longer have desires or to just not be as complex as they once were. And these stories really push up against that idea and show older women in all of their complexity. They're provocative and very original, and I hope that you will check them out. We've got amazing blurbs in already from Lily King, from Darcy Starkey, from Christine Scott, Megan Harpy. So there's really a lot of excitement building, and I hope that you'll check out Cat Brushing in August. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Estrella, and picking up where Justina left off in August, I have The 100 Waters by Lauren Acampora, author of The Wonder Garden and The Paper Wasp. Celebrated by the Boston Globe as a brilliant anthropologist of the suburbs, Lauren Acampora conjures cul-de-sacs and country clubs that feel dark, strange, and true. Her latest, The 100 Waters, out August 23rd, takes place on coastal Connecticut during long summer days that become gradually heavier with foreboding. Our main character, Louisa Rader, experiences life in near water as both frictionless and suffocating. Compared to her former life as a model and photographer in New York City, her days in suburbia pass quickly and quietly. Her family's unquestioned comfort is punctured first by the death of a child in the next town over, likely from toxic debris buried under a school. And then Gabriel shows up, a young artist environmentalist. He is focused intently on shaking the adults in Nearwater awake from their dream lives. Louisa and her daughter are captured by his vision, and their life in Nearwater is permanently changed as a result. The 100 Waters is a novel of drama, desire, art, and obsession, and the depressing realities of our climate crisis. Perfect for summer reading if you like a little shadow with your sunshine. Also out earlier in the month, on August 16th, is Slenderman, online obsession, mental illness, and the violent crime of two Midwestern girls by Kathleen Hale. We begin with what seems to be the perfect tabloid story. Two 12-year-old suburban girls in Wisconsin stabbed their friend 19 times at a birthday sleepover, leaving her for dead. When caught hours later, the would-be tween murderers, who thankfully failed in their mission to kill, said they did it to appease Slenderman, a crowdsourced internet demon. But in this deeply researched and compassionate new book, we go beyond the sensational elements of the crime to tell a more complex and multidimensional story about childhood mental illness, the punitive and politicized American judicial system, the trials of adolescence, and the seductive power of the internet's far corners. Thanks so much from all of us here at Grove Atlantic. It's been a privilege to talk to you on today's speed dating, and we hope to hear about the titles that you're interested in and get your galley requests and work with you soon.
Hello, my name is Madison Detlinger, and I'm so excited to be here today presenting 6 new incredible books from Random House. Neruda on the Park illuminates the stories of 2 Dominican women in a moving, often humorous exploration of how 2 different generations manage dramatic changes to their community, while Eusebia devises a series of schemes to stop construction of the luxury condos popping up in the neighborhood. Her daughter Luz becomes distracted by a sweltering romance with the handsome white developer of the company her mother so vehemently opposes. A beautifully layered portrait of family, friendship, and ambition, Neruda on the Park weaves a rich and vivid tapestry of community, as well as the sacrifices we make to protect what we love most. Zakiya Dalila Harris calls it a dazzling triumph, and Angie Cruz says it's the book we need and the reason I read. Number 1 New York Times bestselling author Emily Giffin is back with an irresistible new novel about a star-crossed romance between a golden boy and a girl with a troubled past. When Joseph S. Kingsley III is born in 1960, he inherits the weight of his family's political legacy. Then there's Kate, who uses her looks to transcend life with her mother in their small apartment. Before too long, her face is everywhere, but she's always aware that she'd be a pariah if anyone knew her true story. In a beautifully written novel that Ariana Trigiani calls glorious, Emily Giffin tells a story of a love that may or may not have the power to transcend circumstances that seem arrayed against it, and the difficulty of finding your way to the place you belong. Can love really conquer all? From the New York Times bestselling author of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, and Malibu Rising, Carrie Soto is back as Taylor Jenkins Reid's most vulnerable, emotional story yet. 6 years after her retirement, Carrie Soto's status as the best female tennis player in the world is challenged by newcomer Nikki Chan. So at 37 years old and with her father as her coach, Carrie comes out of retirement for one last attempt to reclaim her record. Even if the sports media says they never like the battle axe, even if her body doesn't move the way it used to, even if it means swallowing her pride, Carrie is back. About the cost of greatness, the expectations placed upon female athletes, and the power of family, this is Taylor Jenkins Reid at her finest. Olivia McAfee knows what it feels like to start over. She never imagined she would end up back in her sleepy New Hampshire hometown with her son Asher. Lily Campanello is familiar with do-overs too. When she and her mom relocate to Adams, New Hampshire for her final year of high school, they both hope it'll be a fresh start. Then one day, Olivia receives a phone call. Lily is dead and Asher is being questioned by the police. Olivia is adamant that her son is innocent, but as the case against him unfolds, she realizes he's hidden more than he shared with her. From best-selling authors Jodi Picoult and Jennifer Finney Boylan, Mad Honey is a riveting novel of suspense, an unforgettable love story, and a moving and powerful exploration of the secrets we keep and the risks we take in order to become ourselves. Imagine you attend your father's funeral, only to find that instead of leaving you his prized possession, he's gifted it to a stranger and left you with a preposterous, even insulting gift. This is the case for Ellie Adler, who'd always thought of her beloved father's prized baseball as her own, until it was simply taken away from her. Setting out to solve the mystery surrounding the father she thought she knew, she learned startling information about not only her family, but herself. Unforgettable, witty, and heartbreaking, The Catch is a story of the gifts we're given over the course of a lifetime, the ones we want and the ones we don't yet understand that we need. Emma Straub calls The Catch a delightful read about love, loss, and the vulnerability of growing up. Meg Wolitzer says, "I love this book, and you will too." Girl, warrior, heretic, saint, Catherine Chen will make you forget everything you thought you knew about Joan of Arc in this stunning secular reimagining that Hilary Mantel says recreates Joan of Arc as a woman of our time. The year is 1412. France is mired in a losing war against England. Its people are starving, its king is in hiding. From this chaos emerges a teenage girl who will turn the tide of battle and lead the French to victory, becoming an unlikely hero whose name will echo across the centuries. Joan is a thrilling epic, a triumph of historical fiction, and a feminist celebration of one remarkable and remarkably real woman who left an indelible mark on history.
Hi y'all, thanks so much for tuning in today. My name is Francie Crawford from William Morrow Books, and I'm here to talk to you about some of our most exciting upcoming releases. First up, we have The Change by Kirsten Miller. Big Little Lies meets The Witches of Eastwick in this gloriously entertaining and knife-sharp feminist revenge fantasy about three women whose midlife crisis brings unexpected new powers, putting them on a collision course with the evil that lurks in their wealthy beach town. This is the adult debut of YA author Kirsten Miller, set in the Long Island oceanfront community of Montauk, where three different women discover that midlife changes bring a whole new type of empowerment when they discover a teenage girl whose body was abandoned beside a remote beach. The police have written the victim off as a drug-addicted sex worker, but the women refuse to buy into the official narrative. Their investigation into the girl's murder leads to more bodies and to the town's most exclusive and isolated enclave, a world of stupendous wealth where the rules don't apply. With newfound powers, Jo, Nessa, and Harriet will take matters into their own hands. Publishers Weekly gave The Change a starred review and calls it a rare treat and a suspenseful story with great pacing, memorable characters, and an engaging voice. Fantastic in every way, this fierce anthem against misogyny is a smash. The book has already been optioned for TV in a heated auction. Bruna Papandreou's Made Up Stories is overseeing it, and the series is currently slated to be written by Emmy-nominated writer Raelle Tucker. It's perfect for readers of Ninth House, The Gracier, Alice Hoffman, and V.E. Schwab. Next up, we have More Than You'll Ever Know. More Than You'll Ever Know is a masterful work of literary suspense that marks the debut of an extraordinary new writer. With major book club appeal, this debut hits the sweet spot between crime, suspense, and domestic drama with multiple layers to dissect and discuss in the vein of Celeste Ng, Laura Dave, and Liz Moore. Katie Gutierrez was born and raised in the city of Laredo, and she infuses this novel with such incredible detail and imagery, a testament to her love for this place. Her goal for this book was to portray Mexican-American characters whose identities are a source of power, and who are simply flawed people navigating a complicated world. An evocative drama about a woman caught leading a double life after one husband murders the other, and the true crime writer who becomes obsessed with telling her story. This novel is told through alternating timelines and is both a gripping mystery and a wrenching family drama. We already have early blurbs in from best-selling authors such as Ashley Audrain and Ellery Lloyd, and The Following from Jessamine Chan. What Happens When a Mother Wants More? A seductive, urgent tale about desire, family, the pursuit of truth, and the art of storytelling. More Than You'll Ever Know will astonish readers with its vastness, romance, tragedy, and abundant heart. I became obsessed with Katie Gutierrez's restless, secret-keeping heroines and didn't want this book to ever end. Next up, we have Counterfeit. For fans of Inventing Anna and How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia, this book follows two Asian women, college roommates, who band together to grow a counterfeit handbag scheme into a global enterprise. From the author of Bury What We Cannot See and Soy Sauce for Beginners, the book addresses the stereotypes of the model minority, class, and privilege within a fun, absorbing narrative, making it perfect for book clubs. Ava Wong has been a rule-following overachiever her whole life. When her old college roommate Winnie resurfaces years later, Ava gets sucked into Winnie's counterfeit handbag scam. It takes her away from her difficult life as the mother of a hyperactive child, but when the police crack down on their scam and Winnie flees the country, Ava is stuck holding the bag, so to speak. With an incredible twist in the middle of the book that will astound and delight you, Counterfeit is equal parts Thelma and Louise, Inventing Anna, and Crazy Rich Asians. This is one of the buzziest books of the summer. You do not want to miss this one. Claire Massad calls it sly, and thoroughly compelling. Will keep you breathless to the last page. Janice Y.K. Lee calls it a glittering, provocative read, and Bali Kar Jaswal calls it a riveting and energetic an exploration of the intricacies of friendship, class, culture, and survival. Next up, we have The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. The Midnight Library meets The Immortalists in the spirit-lifting, high-concept blockbuster debut. Would you choose to know how long you'll live? It seems like any other day. You wake up, pour a cup of coffee, and head out. But today, when you open your front door, waiting for you is a small wooden box. This box holds your fate inside, the answer to the exact number of years you will live. From suburban doorsteps to desert tents, every person on every continent receives the same box. In an instant, the world is thrust into a collective frenzy. As society comes together and pulls apart, everyone faces the same shocking choice. Do they wish to know how long they'll live? And if so, what will they do with that knowledge? We've had amazing early buzz and support for this enchanting debut. The Measure at its heart is an invigorating story about family, friendship, hope, and destiny that encourages us to live life to the fullest. Marie Claire says it is perfect for book clubs, and we agree that your clubs will fall in love with it. It has all the hallmarks to make it a must-discuss. Its high-concept hook, relatable and oh-so-human cast of characters, smooth and accessible writing, and an enlightening perspective on current cultural conversations, including social justice, privilege, family obligation, loss, and more. This novel is a book club's dream. Ehrlich reframes issues in a new and refreshing way, providing a unique space for readers and book clubs to discuss and reflect. Sharp, confident, and perceptive, 26-year-old Nikki Ehrlich is a debut writer to watch. We anticipate a promising and prolific career for this young woman. Next up, we have Honey and Spice. Perfect for fans of Jasmine Guillory, Talia Hibbert, Meg Cabot, and Sally Rooney, this vibrant debut novel is full of passion, humor, and heart. Bolu established herself as an author to watch with the publication of her debut story collection, Love and Color. It was New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice, one of EW's Best Books of April 2021, Bustle's Book Club pick for April 2021, and a Book of the Month add-on title. This new novel sparkles with wit and will cement Bolu as an exciting new fiction writer. Her trademark humor and incredible voice make this a truly unmissable debut. Flowing with life and a style all her own, her writing shines on every single page. It has all the hallmarks of what makes rom-coms so popular: fake dating, strong and complex female friendships, and delicious tension that will make you weak in the knees. There's so much to love about this book, which also makes it a must-read for book clubs looking for their next selection. A young Black British woman who has no interest in love unexpectedly finds herself caught up in a fake relationship with the man she warned her girls about. Set at the fictional Whitewell University in southern England, it's chock full of lovable characters that make up the Whitewell Afro-Caribbean Society. We already have early blurbs in from best-selling authors like Meg Cabot and Beth O'Leary. Meg calls it a divine summer reading, hilarious, hot, and heartfelt. And Beth calls it a gorgeously written and heart-meltingly romantic novel. Next up, we have Mika in Real Life. Last but certainly not least, this is the new novel from Emiko Jean, the New York Times bestselling author of Tokyo Ever After, which was a Reese Witherspoon Hello Sunshine young adult book pick. This new book is definitely for an adult audience rather than YA readers, but it's also a whip-smart, laugh-out-loud funny, and utterly heartwarming novel about motherhood, daughterhood, and love. Mika in Real Life tackles issues about cultural heritage, overcoming personal trauma, the model minority myth, and the complicated relationships between parents and their children. The protagonist, Mika, is charming and also a complete mess. She's in her mid-30s, just got fired, her strict Japanese mother doesn't approve of anything she does, her romantic and personal life is in shambles, and then she gets a phone call from a 16-year-old girl who turns out to be the baby that Mika gave up for adoption many years ago. As Mika slowly gets to know her daughter and her daughter's widowed adopted father, she begins to see herself differently. But can she really have it all? Love, her daughter, the life she's always dreamed of? You'll have to read to find out. That's all from me today. And again, this is Francie Crawford from William Morrow Books. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you're excited about these fabulous titles and many more.
Hi, I'm Brittany Crum, Marketing Manager at Ingram Content Group. We're thrilled to present upcoming books from independent publishers distributed by Consortium Book Sales and Distribution, Ingram Publisher Services, Publishers Group West, and Two Rivers Distribution. We hope you enjoy.
Shelley Parker Chan's She Who Became the Sun meets Haruki Murakami's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle in Larissa Ly's The Lost Century. Romance, betrayal, a murder plot, and a crew of unlikely cosmopolitans that attempt to stop it in this epic historical fiction novel. The Lost Century is the tale of Emily Ma, a woman who fell in love with and married her father's mortal enemy not once but 3 times. A scandal that is violently disrupted by the Japanese Imperial Army's invasion of Hong Kong on Christmas Day, 1941. When Emily's situation becomes dire, it's up to her sister Violet and her motley crew to rescue Emily from the wrath of the person she thought she loved the most. In The Lost Century, Larissa Ly masterfully balances an exploration of queer Asian history, early Southern Chinese communism, and the rise of modern China in this intense and exhilarating story of passion, heartbreak, and violence.
Hi, I'm David Allender, publisher at Godine, and I'm very proud to tell you about a new novel by Simon Van Boy, The Presence of Absence. Simon Van Boy is not only a master storyteller. His fiction is rich with philosophical and spiritual insights. Simon not only has an astonishing mind, but also a very warm and compassionate heart. And those two elements come together as he tells the story of a writer who lies dying, a writer with one last story to tell. The presence of absence is powerful, it is deeply affecting, and the ending comes as the most wonderful illumination. You may know Simon from his previous Godine novel, Night Came with Many Stars, new in paperback this fall. So I thank you, and I know you're going to love The Presence of Absence.
Hello. I'm really delighted to be telling you today about this book, which I love, The Instant by Amy Liptrot. It's an exquisite piece of human nature writing about Amy's journey from the Orkney Islands and the West Hebrides of Scotland through to Berlin in her early 30s, where she spends a year, one calendar year, connecting with the new people, new friends, and hopefully lovers of the city. The book is about the quest for connection, not just with people and with love and desire, but also with the urban wildlife that she finds there. Raccoons in amongst the trash piles and goshawks flying amongst the skyscrapers. Amy is an incredible writer about the way the heart feels in desire, the way the heart throws itself into love and lust. And I would say comparisons to Maggie Nelson's Bluets and Jenny Offill's Weather are quite good if you like that kind of writing. But also Raina Wynn came on board as the book was published in the UK. It became a Sunday Times bestseller. And Raina describes it as such an intimate portrayal of emotional landscapes and the pull of the moon. It's one I'll return to often. I loved it. So this, The Instant, is my recommendation.
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Taylor-Smith with Unnamed Press, and I'm really excited about having the chance to tell you a little bit about Saturnalia by Stephanie Feldman. This was a novel that was really exciting for us because it's combining a slightly apocalyptic near future setting with very complicated weather, very extreme weather, but with these 16th century ideas of alchemy and the homunculus and sorcery and the occult. So in Stephanie Feldman's future Philadelphia, the citizens gather to celebrate a very opulent Roman holiday, almost like a Festivus, called Saturnalia. And they do so within these very secretive and exclusive members-only clubs. So Stephanie is bringing a Gothic, almost Baroque setting to the idea of our future. And this is perfect for people who are interested in those themes, in occult and mystery. It is tinged with horror, but still very much immersive and character-driven, and really thinking about how do you find yourself, how do you grow as a person in our increasingly complicated world. So it is currently available for download on Edelweiss, and we will have print galleys available for you very soon. Thank you so much for all that you do. Take care.
Hi again. Thank you for listening to our presentation. As you can see, we have a wide variety of books and publishers in our bags. Please visit the link below to request any galleys. We hope you enjoy reading these books. Thanks.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Erica Lobrick, and I'm a publicist at Soho Press, Soho Crime, and Soho Teen, and I'm so excited to share with you some of our biggest upcoming titles. First up from our Soho Press imprint is After the Lights Go Out by John Bircher, coming out on June 7th. This is darkly intense literary sports fiction with great appeal for noir readers as well, especially any fans of Bircher's previous novel, 3/5. Anyone familiar with Leonard Gardner's boxing classic Bat City will love this immersive look into the world of MMA, which draws from the author's own experiences and observations in that world. After the Lights Go Out is about a mixed-race MMA fighter named Xavier in Philadelphia who's fallen from grace, and he has a big fight coming up that could be his shot at redemption. At the same time, Xavier's losing his battle with CTE, a degenerative brain condition brought about by frequent head trauma. And he's experiencing memory loss, migraines, and paranoia that are starting to get in the way of his day-to-day life. On top of all of that, Xavier's reckoning with his white father's racism and uncovering why his black mother left their family years ago. This is a vivid, gritty, thrilling character study that really immerses you in Xavier's dark and troubled experience as it dives deep into the dark underbelly of a multi-million-dollar sports industry. After the Lights Go Out is not for the faint of heart, but it's the kind of novel that will keep you thinking and stick with you long after you finish reading. Also from our Soho Press imprint is Sacrificio by Ernesto Maestro Reed, publishing September 6th. This is a spellbinding literary masterpiece full of gorgeous poetic writing, intricate storytelling, and a wonderful balance of intimacy and expansiveness as it tells the story of a young man finding himself against the backdrop of a declining nation. Set in Cuba in 1998, Sacrificio follows Rafa, a teenage orphan from the provinces who comes to Havana with nothing to his name and falls into a bizarre web of shifting entanglements. When his boss's charismatic son, Renato, goes missing, Rafa's search for his friend takes him through various haunts in Havana, from a mostly abandoned AIDS sanatorium where the government quarantined HIV-positive citizens for life, to the guest rooms of tourist hotels, to the outskirts of the capital, where he encounters a phantasmagorical slum cobbled together by Los Injected Ones, a group of young HIV-positive counter-revolutionaries led by Renato, who are planning a violent overthrow of the Castro government during Pope John Paul II's upcoming visit. The story unfolds through a mesmerizing method of nested storytelling, where we have stories within stories, dialogues within dialogues, and as you peel back each layer, you find that each character has multiple identities and agendas. Sacrificio is a passionate, symphonic work about queerness and life lived on the margins of a declining society, and it depicts AIDS in a way that hasn't really been seen before in contemporary fiction. Great for readers of queer, Latinx, and historical fiction, Sacrificio is a must-read for fans of Rebecca Mackay's The Great Believers. Moving to our Soho Crime imprint, we have Shutter by Ramona Emerson on August 2nd. This is a debut novel by Indigenous author Ramona Emerson, who is an award-winning Dene filmmaker in New Mexico. Tommy Orange, author of There, calls Shutter utterly unputdownable, and I couldn't agree more. It really grabs your attention from the first page and immerses you in this blood-chilling story set in the heart of New Mexico's Navajo Nation. The story follows Rita Turachin, who is a forensic photographer working with the Albuquerque police. Rita is known for capturing things that other people often overlook at crime scenes but end up proving essential to solving cases. But Rita's secret is that she sees the ghosts of victims, and they often point her towards those essential clues. As helpful as that sounds, when these spirits figure out that Rita can see them, they often harass and nag her in their desperation for help and justice. And what's more, in Navajo culture, death and ghosts are really taboo, so Rita's ability has ostracized her from her community and driven her away from her home on the Navajo reservation. In Shutter, Rita encounters an especially persistent ghost who can't remember how she died but insists that she was murdered, and her quest for help embroils Rita in a journey involving local cartels and other dangers. This is a pulse-pounding, unrelenting thriller with strong horror elements, but at its heart, it's a really beautifully written coming-of-age story about a young Navajo woman who's making sense of her identity and place in the world. This is a fantastic book for fans of crime fiction, supernatural horror, and Native American fiction, as well as Jessica Jones fans interested in a nuanced story of an ordinary woman who has to become a superhero.
Thank you, Erica. I'm really excited to talk about What's Coming to Me, a contemporary YA debut by Dominican-American author Francesca Padilla. This has the emotional undertones of great contemporary YA novels like Emily Pan's The Astonishing Color of After and Erica Sanchez's I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, overlaid with pulse-pounding thriller elements that touch on socioeconomic issues in the vein of Tiffany Jackson. We have amazing blurbs for this book, including from Brandy Colbert and Marco Shiro, who calls What's Coming to Me one hell of a ride. This book stars 17-year-old Minerva Gutierrez. She works a part-time job at Duke's, a legendary ice cream stand on the boardwalk in her hometown. Minerva's boss is sketchy, to say the least, but Minerva has to make ends meet. That's where a little personal mystery comes in. The reader learns that Minerva is on her own, though you don't yet know why, but you do find out over the course of the book itself. In a really exciting first chapter, Dukes gets robbed while Minerva is working. At that point, Minerva is left with only one option. Hatched with her incredible friend Cece, they decide to pull off a heist at Dukes in order to find the money rumored to be hidden there, which is what sparked this robbery in the first place. Their plan is to get what they're rightfully owed, getting revenge on Min's boss in the process. Most relatable of all, Minerva just wants a chance for a future of her own and to get out of her dead-end town where she feels really stuck. This book is so many things. It's often funny and really fun, but it's also a serious treatment of serious issues, including living in poverty, caring for a sick caregiver, and substance abuse. But the ending is hopeful and realistic, uplifting without being saccharine, and it will make you cry for sure. This is the perfect summer read, so bring it to the beach and read it with some tissues and an ice cream cone. Last, I'm going to talk about two exciting paperback releases that we have on the horizon. First is the widely acclaimed New York Times Best Mystery Novel of 2021, Clark and Division by Edgar Award-winning author Naomi Hirahara. If you haven't heard of this crime novel phenomenon, now is your chance. This post-World War II novel follows a young Japanese-American woman, Aki, who moves to Chicago after being released from incarceration in California along with her family, only to discover that on the eve of their long-awaited reunion, her sister Rose was killed by a subway train in Chicago. The police quickly deem it a suicide, but Aki is convinced otherwise and vows to find the truth. Clark and Division brings a heartbreakingly real crime to life with rich period details and delicately wrought personal stories Naomi has gleaned from 30 years of research and archival work in Japanese American history. This is a must-read for historical fiction and crime fans alike, and you will not be disappointed. Next up, and last but not least, is The Bombay Prince. Many of you, I hope, will be familiar with Sujata Massey's fantastic Agatha and Edgar Award-winning Perveen mystery series set in 1920s Bombay, India. For those of you who aren't, this series is based on India's first female lawyer. In Sujata's novels, she is named Perveen Mystery. In this installment, she is compelled to bring justice to the family of a murdered female Parsi student, just as Bombay's streets erupt in riots to protest British colonial rule. The student in question, Frenny Cuttingmaster, had come in for a legal consultation just days before her death, and what she confided makes Perveen suspicious that her death was not an accident. Perveen steps forward to assist Frenny's family, but as the protests to colonial rule grow fiercer and as armed British Secret Service agents march the streets, can Perveen help a suffering family when her own may be in danger? So nominated for both the Agatha and the Lefty for Best Historical Mystery, The Bombay Prince is a fascinating, accessible, and rich historical read, perfect for book clubs. So that's all. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Jarvis and I am the Marketing Director at Bloomsbury Publishing. I'm excited to talk to you today about 6 great new books that are coming this summer. First is a paperback that is publishing at the end of May, and the stack of praise for this book is truly astonishing. In addition to being a national bestseller, Girlhood by Melissa Febos recently won the National Book Critics Circle Award in Criticism, was a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award, and was named one of the best books of the year by everyone from NPR and Time in 2021. This is a gripping set of essays about the forces that shape girls and the adults they become. It's a brilliant and wise guide to transforming the self and our society. Blending investigative reporting, memoir, and scholarship, Febos blends how she and others like her have reimagined relationships and made room for anger, grief, power, and pleasure that women are often been taught not to feel. Written with Febos' characteristic precision, lyricism, and insight, Girlhood is a philosophical treatise, an anthem for women, and a searing study to the transitions into and away from girlhood and toward the chosen self. Next is from the best-selling author of Women Rowing North and Reviving Ophelia, A Life in Light, a memoir in essays reflecting on radiance, resilience, and the constantly changing nature of reality. In her luminous new memoir in essays, Mary Pfeiffer taps into a cultural moment to offer wisdom, hope, and insight into loss and change. Drawing from her own experiences and expertise as a psychologist specializing in women, trauma, and the effect of our culture on our mental state, she looks inward in A Life in Light to what shaped her as a woman, one who has always experienced darkness but has been drawn to the light. Her plain-spoken depictions of a difficult childhood and life's troubles are dappled with moments of joy and realization. That's the magic of this book, tragedies and ordinary miseries next to glimmers and shadows. As a child, she was separated from her parents for long periods. Those separations affected her deeply, and in this book she explores what she learned about how to balance despair and joy, utilizing and sharing with readers every coping skill she's honed in her long life to remind us that there's always a sliver of resilience that flows through all life, and that despite our despair, light will always return. Next is an exciting new baking book from the star of baking. We have a guest speaker as well. This book is from internationally best-selling and beloved baker Paul Hollywood, the judge of the Great British Baking Show. In Bake, Paul Hollywood shares his best ever recipes for classic bakes: cakes, biscuits, cookies, breads, flatbreads, pizza, donuts, pastries, pies, and show-stopping desserts. From classic cakes like Victoria sandwich to chocolate fudge, through brilliant breads like foolproof sourdough, to savory and sweet pastries like sausage rolls and Danish pastries. These are the only recipes you'll need to create delicious bakes over and over. With many years as a professional baker and 10 years as a judge on the best baking show on TV, Paul has created, tasted, and tested a huge number of bakes. He's also traveled widely and learned so much about his craft. For Paul, one of the most joyful things about cooking is that it evolves as we discover new techniques, ingredients, and influences. As our knowledge improves, so do our recipes, and in this book, you can take advantage of all of Paul's knowledge. He combines every tip and trick he's learned with his incredible technical know-how to create the ultimate collection of incredible bakes. For this next book, I have to start us off with a blurb from Marlon James. Any fool can confess. It's the rare writer who reveals. In Dirtbag, Massachusetts is a heart on the sleeve, demons in check, eyes unblinking, unbearably sad, laugh out loud, funny revelation. It's true. This new memoir and essays from Isaac Fitzgerald is all of that and more. It's a revelation and a lifeline. Isaac Fitzgerald has lived many lives. He's been an altar boy, a bartender, a fat kid, a smuggler, a biker, a porn actor, and a literary tastemaker. But before all that, he was a bomb that exploded his parents' lives. As he says in the book, his parents were married when he was born, just not to each other. In Dirtbag, Massachusetts, Fitzgerald, with warmth and humor, recounts his ongoing search for forgiveness, a more far-reaching vision of masculinity, and a more expansive definition of both family and the self. Next, we have The House of Fortune, which is the fantastical standalone companion novel to the sensational New York Times best-selling book, The Miniaturist, which sold over 2 million copies worldwide. This book is set in Amsterdam in the year 1705. Today is Thea Brandt's 18th birthday. She's ready to jump into adulthood, but life at home is increasingly difficult. Her father and her Aunt Nella argue endlessly over their financial fate, selling off furniture in a desperate attempt to save their house. So as catastrophe threatens to overwhelm her home life, Thea seeks refuge in Amsterdam's playhouses. She loves the performances, and the stolen moments afterward are even better. In the back rooms of her favorite theater, she finds solace in the arms of her lover, Walter, who's the chief set painter of the show. The thrill of their hidden romance offers Thea an exciting distraction, but it also puts her in mind of another secret that threatens to overwhelm the present. Thea knows that her birthday marks the day that her mother died. Thea's family refuses to share the details of the story, but they seem terrified to speak of a shadowy figure known as the Miniaturist, who has the uncanny ability to capture that which is hidden. Aunt Nella believes that all the solutions will be found by marrying Thea off to a husband who will guarantee her future. An unexpected invitation to Amsterdam's most exclusive ball seems like the golden opportunity. But when Thea finds on her doorstep a parcel containing a miniature figure of Walter, it becomes clear that someone out there has another fate in mind for her family. Last up is a name you'll know from decades of work as one of the most brilliant imaginations writing now. In his first ever short story collection, which spans 40 years of work and features many never-before-seen stories, Alan Moore presents a series of wildly different and equally unforgettable characters and situations which uncover various parts of existence. These stories really cover an astonishing amount of his imagination. There's a brothel for sorcerers, a quirky paranormal group that is infiltrated by one of the otherworldly beings that they're trying to investigate, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the creation of the Big Bang. There's also an epic-length novella called What We Can Know About Thunderman, in which Moore charts the surreal history of the comics industry from the last 75 years through sometimes naive and sometimes maniacal people rising and falling on their career ladders. Moore reveals the dark, beating heart of the superhero business he knows better than anyone. Illuminations is exactly that, a series of bright, startling tales from a contemporary legend that reveal the full power of imagination and magic. I hope you all enjoy the reads.
Hi, I'm Erin Levitt from Norton's Publicity Department, and I wanted to thank you all for tuning into this presentation. And I wanted to send a big thank you to Carol Fitzgerald at Bookreporter. I don't know how she does what she does, but she is remarkable and talented and brilliant, and we couldn't do what we do without her. So thank you so much, Carol, and thank you to all of you for your support of our books throughout the years. I'm going to talk to you about 3 novels that Norton is publishing this fall. The first one is very close to my heart. It's called One's Company. It is actually coming out in June, so a little before the fall. It's going to be a great summer read. Many of you may have grown up watching Three's Company. I know I did. I adored Chrissy and Janet and Jack, and just loved the show and thought, wouldn't it be fun if I was their neighbor? And the author of this book, Ashley Hudson, has taken that to the literal extreme. She's created a character named Bonnie Lincoln, who becomes obsessed with Three's Company every day after an arduous day at work. She comes home, she turns on the TV, and she watches old versions of the sitcom and just immerses herself in their lives. And then one day she wins the lottery and she has this opportunity to literally recreate Three's Company. So she moves to a retreat in the mountains and attempts to do just that, to create the set of Three's Company and just become part of this TV show that she's decided is her escape from reality. This is a terrific Black comedy that really reveals a lot about our struggle with what's real and what's not real, and the importance of kind of staying centered in reality, and what happens if you verge off that path. It's charming, wonderful, and I highly recommend it. The second book is Andrea Barrett's Natural History. This is a collection of short stories. There's 6 in all. Andrea Barrett is the winner of the National Book Award and the Ray Award for the short story, the recipient of the MacArthur Fellowship, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and an NEA Fellowship. She's been a finalist for the Story Prize and the Pulitzer. So she couldn't be a more award-winning author. She's incredibly talented. We're lucky to have her on our list. We've published her for years. And many of you who read Ship Fever may know that she has done this really interesting thing where she has characters from Ship Fever that keep reappearing in her books. So over 25 years, these characters keep coming up and we keep sort of getting to know them in a deeper, richer way. And Natural History is no exception. She takes those characters that we've come to love and folds them into the 6 stories in this collection. And for anyone who's a fan of Ship Fever, you won't be disappointed. If Andrea Barrett is new to you, I hope many of you have experienced her before, but many of you may not have. And if she is new to you, this will be a delightful read and you'll get to know those characters for the first time. So please pick this up. It's coming out in September. And then finally, we have Lydia Millett. She wrote a children's Bible. That was her last book with us, but she's written many books by us and her star just keeps rising. She is one of the most talented writers working today. She writes about the environment, about humans' connection with each other, about our connection to animals, and this book is no exception. Without giving too much away, I'll just tell you that the setup is that there's a man in Arizona who becomes fixated with his neighbors. His neighbors have the house next door, and one wall is completely created by just a glass wall, so he can see through. It's a voyeur's delight, and it's a brilliant sort of story about our connection to humans and why we need each other and what that means. So enjoy dinosaurs, natural history, and one's company. Please reach out to me at Norton if you have any questions, if you want copies of these books, if you'd like anything else from our fall list. And thank you again for everything you do.
Thank you for joining us for our 11th annual speed dating program. Really, wasn't it a terrific ride to be able to see all these fabulous titles coming out in the next couple of months? I know I have a long list for my to-be-read list, and I'm sure you do as well. We hope you found books that you want to read, you want to encourage other people to read and discuss and lead discussions about. Many, many thanks to our publisher sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible. We really, really appreciate all of their support. Many thanks to our producer, Austin Rue, who once again had his editing and co-shepherding on this project with me and oversaw every single detail. He made sure that every name was chironed underneath correctly. He made sure the presentations were all in the correct order. So huge, huge thanks to him again for doing a brilliant job of editing the videos to produce a seamless looking project. Remember, this was from 14 different people. And thanks to our editorial director, Tom Donadio, who once again applied his eagle eye, looking at all the materials that we had to make sure that everything just looked perfect. Please remember to reach out to our publishing contacts if you have more questions, or to thank them for being part of this event. We appreciate that as well. We'll be planning to be back to you with our next book group presentation in November. And until then, happy reading. And once again, thank you for joining us.